Hello, thank you for being here. This is, we're here for the purpose of the work session, which will be a public forum. Ask Dr. Murphy to call roll and establish the fact that we are here in quorum with the board.
Alphabetically, Deanna Bowman. Here. Craig Kelly.
Here.
Kermit Kendrick.
Here.
Amy Madonna. Here. Amy Tosman. Here. Thank you.
Good. Dr. Murphy.
We have chosen to have work sessions. We started last month and we have provided for you board members work sessions that will now carry us all the way up to December. I sent you an email today. If you have not had a chance, each of our departments will be sharing with you over the next several months, so you'll find that in an email. For this evening, we are going to have a conversation regarding our capital outlay plan and also supplement salary. Michelle and Tracy are going to share with us, and so, if I may, turn it over to you.
Let me begin by saying thank you very, very much for allowing us this opportunity. I think that it's beneficial to all of us, but I do realize that this is your time and we want to make it as efficient and informative as we possibly can so that you can make some of the decisions that you need to down the road. I'm actually going to start, if you don't mind, the first few minutes with the supplemental schedule. And I say that because I want the majority of this time to be about the capital needs, to give Tracy an opportunity to talk to us before he's no longer here to share all that wisdom and the history. So if we could just talk a little bit about that supplemental schedule. Last year, in the spring, we actually had a supplemental schedule committee where we reviewed the supplement schedule. We looked at the years of experience versus a percentage of salaries. And this particular group decided that we really liked doing something based on years of experience rather than the percentage of an individual's salary. So we moved that supplemental schedule. We built in 21 years. There's where it's escalated every 3. We also decided how many individuals we would have board approved. We worked on that for quite a while. And since then, we've kind of tweaked things a little bit as we've gone along. There were some things we knew we needed to add because we wanted full disclosure, and there were things that were added throughout the year. There were also a few positions that we missed. So I've taken care of that. When you look at the supplemental schedule, those things that are highlighted in yellow, that's what they are. We did not have them on the approved supplement schedule last year. So I wanted to do that for you this year, and that's what I wanted you to focus on. I am going to take you over, and it's really towards the end. If you've had an opportunity to look at this, it is actually a part of the athletic supplemental schedule, the proposed, under volleyball. And I should have numbered these pages. I'm sorry I did not, but I will do that for the future. There was an additional junior varsity coach. And if you look, I highlighted that actual amount in red because it was disproportionate to what we were actually paying based on years of experience for that same position. So this is an additional position that the school would like to pay, and they had written down a flat $2,500. And I have since talked to the school, and it really should be $2,350. So that's what we wanted to make it so that it was comparable with the position that's already been approved by the board. And I can share some of these notes with you. It was just shared with us a few hours ago.
Michelle, can you explain why that one's just a flat versus?
Well, typically when you have the local schools that make a payment, those individual booster clubs need to fit it into their budget. And it's a lot easier for them to say, we can allot $2,500 based on our earnings, our raised income from fundraisers, et cetera. So it's a lot easier for them to base that on a flat rate. And that's why I was sure to put down there that it was not incremental based on experience, but it was a flat. Some of the other positions I just want to bring to your attention, and we'll start with football, the JV assistant coach. You will see that under maximum number of supplements per school, there's a 4. That's because that's what the board approved were 4 positions. I found notes that referred back to 2011, 2012, and 2012, 2013 that said Mr. Craig had approved additional positions. These supplements are really just 1-year guarantees. It's not guaranteed that you'll have it the next year. Unfortunately, those have been paid through the board since 2011, 2012. So what I did was showed you, we originally approved 4, we've been paying 6, but 2 I'm proposing are local school until the board approves more, if that's what they so choose to do based on participation. And those are some of the discussions that we can have. The same thing is true not only with JV varsity assistant coach for football, but if you go over, you will see cross country, indoor track, and outdoor track. It's very, very similar to that as well. So where you see that highlighted LSA paid additional coaches, that's exactly what happened there too. Those additional coaches were approved by Mr. Craig in 11-12 and 12-13. We continue to pay those. However, we noted this year that the board had only approved a certain number of positions. So I've proposed right now their local school until the district approves those, if you so choose. Any questions on that? Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, do we, so we don't go back to the process of going back to the coaches or whoever to justify it again, or we're just considering that justified but not further?
Well, and that is something that we have actually talked about, Dr. Murphy and I. I did look to see who are those assistant coaches that are paid for football? Who are those assistant coaches that are paid for other positions, and why? And I think that is something that we need to look at. I will say the committee said we'd like to come back every 3 years and evaluate. I don't know if we need to do that more often or less often. But when we left the committee, we said every 3 years we would look at that and evaluate.
And you might know that Mr. Urban, Mr. Montgomery did provide us, do they have this?
They do not, but I have it right here because I just got that from them. Let me
So,
share.
Mr. Urban, Mr. Montgomery have provided some data regarding athletic supplements for the 18-19 season.
Okay, so the first sheet I'm going to give to you is really their breakdown of who those assistant coaches are, what positions. And the next one, I hope I copied enough. This will be them showing you their supporting documentation for those additional positions. Okay. And this is hot off the press, current numbers.
If we were to, I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
If we were to approve the additional funds, where would this place us as it relates to other over the mountain similar type programs?
Now, I will say I have not compared our number of athletes versus number of coaches with other districts. I don't know if you would like to defer to Coach Urban or Mr. Urban to answer that question.
If you have answered, not trying to put you on the spot,
as
we
far
can
as,
certainly talk about it later.
The football, we try to have 3 on offense, 3 on defense. With the way it's set up now, we would have 1 less position there if we don't do that. That's the reason why, and the numbers state that. But for our cross country, indoor, outdoor track, both us and Spain Park we have more student athletes participating than most other schools. I mean, you can see the numbers on there. Like we have 190 kids in outdoor track, and the board pays 3 supplements and a head coach. And our head coach coaches boys and girls. So that's only 4 bodies for 190 kids.
Mhm.
And up until 2011, we had to request it each year. And at some point during that, it just became part of the supplement sheet because we always had that many kids out. So if there's something like there's a rash of another sport, if we've ever needed an additional supplement, we've requested the board pay that. And I know the Spain Park's done that in the past with outside people that don't work at the school that they want to hire for this year. They want to pay them that supplement, and that's where that dollar amount in relation to how many years experience they have has been in the past.
Now, I will say this, prior year actual, the athletic supplements paid were 1.3 million. The extracurricular was 655,000 for a total prior year supplements of 1.95 million. I projected based on what schools have shared with me to date that it's going to be 1.7 million next year, but that excludes any playoff supplements and it excludes the head coach supplements. So that's not included in that 1.7 calculation that I'm projecting for next year. Give or take, once the schools provide me more information as we get closer, then we'll have a better idea of that years of experience. And that's gonna change the picture a little bit because every 3 years experience, you go up to another bracket and make more money. So based on what we had last year,
It's a silly question. These are for the existing people. This is not adding, this supplement is not adding another person. This is for existing folks that we already
That's
have
right.
working for.
now those other items that were highlighted in yellow,
Mhm.
those are supplements that have been actually paid in the past
Mhm.
by the local schools that I felt it was important to get them on the schedule. So they have been paid in the past, they just haven't been on the schedule. Okay.
Do you have, or maybe I have in front of me, the, amounts of money based on playoffs?
It's in playoffs.
It's online.
So it depends on what sport, and it depends on how many rounds. But it looks like it can go anywhere from $75, depending on the sport, up to $400 per round. And if you think about it, we always have at least one team in the Hoover City School District that has made it to state, basically. So I just wanted to share that information. I would like for us to be able to vote on this at the July meeting. So know that any questions that you have, I've already shared with Mr. Urban and Mr. Montgomery that if there are questions that you have of me and I can't answer them, I will defer to them or any other principal or coach that we may have questions about or athletic director. And we'll try to keep everybody in the loop with those questions and those answers. Are there any questions before we move on to capital plan?
Just to make this note, I didn't add this up, it's not, but this is a little over 20-something thousand additional dollars based on the assistant coaches that we're being asked to pick up now. Data of athletic supplements,
yes,
so
ma'am.
if we added up all the additional funds needed, it's a little over 20,000 additional dollars, 12, 16,
That would be about,
17.
I didn't run those numbers, I really
19,
just got
about
that sheet, so.
20,000. Okay. Just making sure I'm reading it right.
One last, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna
Sure.
say, this is all just for the athletics. We've also got other extracurricular.
You do, and I think there was only one
That word.
addition.
Addition, okay. I was just trying to flip through it real fast. I see some highlighted yellow, but I
There were
was
some that were paid by local schools,
Right.
have been paid by local schools,
Right.
it's not a new position, they've been there, we're just trying to disclose it to the public and to the board, so that you're aware.
Michelle, on the ones that we put on here though, 2018, 2019, they were paid by the board,
They
correct?
were paid by the board,
So it's
yes,
not, it would be the other way, if they said, no, we're not gonna pay it, then we would have to pay it.
that's right.
But it was part of the supplement sheet last year, just because it was carried over and we.
Well, it really wasn't part of the supplemental schedule, they weren't
Wasn't
approved,
approved.
right, they weren't
Wasn't
approved
approved.
positions to be paid by the board, but somehow they were lucky.
With a state raise coming in October, do
Yes.
these numbers, do these numbers get the state raise as well?
They do not get the state raise, that's one of the reasons why we changed from the percentage of salary to this flat rate.
But these contribute to retirement, I guess.
Steve, I'm gonna let you jump in on
They
that
do.
one. I'm sorry, yes. Okay. Alright, so if you're okay, I'm gonna jump to capital plan.
Was there anything else, do you mind? Was there anything
No,
else?
I'm good, I just, I
Montgomery, or-
run the class, I just didn't want to be ready and jump up and go, but, anyway, I just appreciate y'all considering it. All these people are our current employees that are, got those and, how we would work that out, but I know that's not till July. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright, Tracy, you ready? So, When we do our capital needs assessment, I basically start with the spring. And in the spring, Mr. Hobson and Tina Hancock this past year walked around the facilities with all the principals and or assistant principals, looked at the buildings, looked at the grounds, discussed any needs that they may have. A lot of those needs we've been able to fill this summer with our work order program. But there were several things that were big ticket items that we said we couldn't afford in this year's budget, and we would have to discuss for the following years, 2020 to 2024. So what we did was try to show some of these capital needs. Some of these are new construction, some are renovations, some will just be preventive maintenance that we feel is very important and we need to continue. Oops. So if we start with FY20 capital outlay,
That was
Jason.
low.
Sorry. I'm gonna start with Berry Middle School classroom. So the Berry Middle School classroom, we're projected to add 13 classrooms. And I did put $7 million here to include the architect fee. We are hoping that we can open December 2020. And I think we're projecting that we can go to bid in October. So we're hoping to go to the bid in October, open December 2020, and we projected that to be $7 million. And again, you can jump in with anything that you want. Artists on the Bluff, several things with that one. Right now, it's a vacant building. For us to be able to insure it, we're not gonna be able to go much longer with a vacant building. It has to be occupied. So what we thought, since we're looking for a home for our student services, that may be a possibility for us. We know there are some improvements that we have to make. So one of the things that we suggested was, let's house our student services, provide a special room for professional development and training because we're outgrowing the building here. That could be an investment of $1 million. Again, keep in mind, for everyone here, this is proposed. These are just discussions. This is nothing that anyone has said, yes, let's do. This is just Tracy and I going through doing assessments and looking at some of the needs that we've seen and heard in the district. Bleachers. One of the things that we noted when we walked around the buildings was there is a serious need for either new bleachers or improvements to existing bleachers. And we estimated that that would be about $250,000. Lockers, Berry Middle School will need additional lockers with the additional classrooms, and we're estimating about $30,000 for that. So I know you can read, I guess I don't need to go through that much detail. The HVAC controls, I want to draw your attention to HVAC controls. And I have upgrade there. What has happened is Windows XP used to be the application that we use to control, to do diagnostics, to control. That application has expired. It's no longer available anymore. So in order for us to be efficient with our buildings, we need to come up with something else. So we can either upgrade and spend the money to do that, or we can put thermostats in every room, let individuals control the thermostat, and then we have no way to do any diagnostics. Because currently we have 6 HVAC employees that walk around with a laptop or an iPad, and they can do everything from those devices. Do you want to add to that?
We just don't want to take those devices out of our, it's like a tool, essentially. And so, I think it's really important that we move in that direction too. We cannot maintain what we maintain with 6 people without these tools and this technology.
The majority of this money is the server,
Yeah,
and the software.
you want to upgrade on the server for the HVAC control.
It is, it will be a new server that will take care of the district and allow it to connect to the other servers. Right now, we have 3 separate, building automation systems and one server that ties all of those together, kind of like the operator. So when you log on to one system, it'll throw you out there to another building. And it's Windows 7 based, and we're fixing to,
It's
not
unsupported.
support Windows 7 anymore because of security issues that operating system has.
Do we know how long the support will be for XP? Because I guess it's a.
Well, XP's gone. That's what I'm
I
saying. It's
meant-
already
I meant
expired.
Windows
Oh,
10.
okay.
So you actually correct.
I'm sorry.
That'd be Windows 10. That'd be an awesome question for Brian Phillips. I'm not exactly sure, but I imagine Windows 10 will be around for quite some time. I would say at least 10 years.
we just don't want to lose the ability to control our buildings or take tools out of our technicians' hands.
So then we jump to that HVAC cooling towers. That's something that we really look at as preventive maintenance on our buildings. We have over 17 buildings now, and we need to make sure that we're controlling those, making sure that they're up to speed, that we don't have one that just breaks down completely and we have to replace 100%. I would say
Let me
that,
step in right there.
Yes.
One thing I would like to see us do in the future is reach out to a mechanical engineer and let them come in and do an assessment of our buildings, what we have. Again, just as Windows or XP went away, we're gonna be facing a refrigerant loss of R22 in 2 to 3 years. So we are heavily invested in R22 as far as refrigerant, and it's gonna go away. So what I would like to see us do is reach out to an engineering firm or mechanical engineer and have an assessment done of our buildings and let them make us a comprehensive plan of over 3 or 4 years to see what kind of upgrades we need to do and take care of that.
and we had a comprehensive plan done about 10 years ago, and we've tried to maintain that. The last couple of years, we've put off a few things so that we could do more of those construction projects that have been approved.
And that's one thing is as we made our assessments through the school district in the spring, one thing that I was hearing was we've spent about $30 million in new improvements and capital outlay, but we haven't spent a lot of money in our pre-existing buildings. So we can't let that pendulum swing too far. We've got to continue to maintain what we have. As we move forward, let's just keep that in our sights.
And that's really when we get down to that roofing project, we're showing 1.8 million. If you remember, last year, we had Hoover High School projected at 1.5 million for roofing repairs, and we postponed that so that we could fill in the gap for RC3. So that's something that we've pushed out another year, and we need to consider that preventive maintenance for that particular roof. And that we projected at $1.5 million, and then we had a few smaller jobs that boosted that up to 1.8. The paving project, we typically, in walking around with the principals and assistant principals, driving some of our roads and parking lots, we note some of those areas that need paving improvements. And so we try to keep that annually, where we can go in and do some of those more extensive improvements. Same thing with painting. This year, we talked about the bid last month. We allotted every elementary school 8,000, every middle school 10,000, high school 15,000. They picked the areas that needed it the most. We'd like to continue to do that in future years. And go ahead.
Keeping that on a rotation every year just kind of helps us not get behind on, well, I haven't had painted in 5 years.
And that is labor only. We have actually put the painting supplies and the paint in our operations and maintenance budget. And then the last thing would be carpeting and tiling, because there are schools that really need to have some replaced carpet, tiles, stair treads, whatever it is that they may need in their schools. That's 2020, oh, yes, sir,
I was
sorry.
gonna ask, given the large amount of student athletes we have, was that assessment done about locker room facilities for our athletics?
Yes, sir. When we go to do our assessments, we meet with the principals and they kind of prioritize what
Okay.
areas that they want to see focused on.
And that was another reason why. We knew we had the very middle school edition, but that was also a request from Dr. Robbins as well. Now, down at the bottom, what I try to do is just show you the projected fund balance ending fiscal year 19 this year was 103,581,727. If we take, and this year they're projecting to give us advancement in technology fund money at 3.7 million. If we use that towards capital improvements, Berry Middle School for one, it would be 3.7 million. Then if you take the state's projected allocation at 3 million and subtract out what I've projected for capital outlay, we would end FY20 with 98.1 million in our fund balance or savings account. So yes, we're starting to dip into that fund balance, but we're investing in our buildings, which we haven't done in the last few years. FY21, I just wanted to show you, we've added the auditorium for the arts, which we've talked about for several years. And that would be new construction. That would be projected at 11 million. We're hoping that that would include architect fees, but that's a projection for right now. We also wanted to add a hub for operations and transportation east Hoover. And I say that because as Hoover City Schools has a need for operations and maintenance, I think the city would probably say they also have a need for some type of maintenance or operation efficiency on the east side of Hoover. I'm not speaking for them, I'm just saying I think we could reach out to them.
They have similar needs also.
The city. So as much as it's a need for Hoover City Schools, transportation and maintenance.
So when our operations center was built, we didn't have a lot of buildings or facilities on the east side of town. We didn't have Greystone, we didn't have Berry, we didn't have Spain. So our transportation operations center was currently mostly in the center of the western side of the city. Well, now that we've reached out to Greystone, and have Spain Park and Berry and River Chase, you know, there could essentially be a need for, and Jeremy and I have talked to them about, you know, something in the Spain Park campus as far as where they can run buses in there instead of having to bring them all the way back to operation. Or my guys, they have a centrally 3 or 4 guys out there that could handle Spain Park and not have to come from the western side of town. But that's just kind of a pipe fishing dream, so.
So then I added window replacement. That would be something new. That's at Green Valley. Green Valley is actually the only school with single pane windows. Those are those old fashioned windows. They're the only school that still has those, and they're not very energy efficient. So as we've gone in and done improvements with lighting, replacing all the light fixtures, we still have the windows that are causing some energy issues. And we thought we could probably do window replacements at about $200,000. And then you just have your regular preventive maintenance that we would like to set aside each year, pick the building that needs it the most, and move forward. That would take our projected fund balance ending FY20 to $85.6 million FY21. Assuming we don't get the advancement in technology funds, and we're only talking about the state allocation for capital outlay. FY22, really the only new thing we're adding to FY22 is the Early Learning Center. I've heard a few people talk about. This is, and it is.
This is a dream.
It is. I do see a need for that in our district. I think that would be very beneficial to our students. I think it would be beneficial to some of the things that you're going to hear from Dr. Jeter when she shares with us at one of the work sessions about curriculum and where we're going and where we hope to be. So we put that down there as a FY22 pipe dream. But that would be a $6 million, hopefully renovation, not new construction, if we could find an existing building. And then you have your regular preventive maintenance. That would put us at the end of FY22 at $79.9 million. FY23 capital outlay, again, it's mostly preventive maintenance. The cooling towers, I'm hoping that we can have more detail with that from this comprehensive plan as we move forward. That would give us an ending September 23 of $80,127,764. And then FY24, preventive maintenance, because we're not foreseeing any new construction at this point. That would give us an ending projected fund balance September 2024 of $80 million. Now, do you want to add anything to the presentation
Do
at
you
all?
have any questions on this?
No
I would
questions?
say to you, what we've done both with our Center for the Arts, for our early learning is what do we believe our needs are that we maybe are not meeting well now. So again, just to understand, these are proposals, these are ideas, they're thoughts. It gives us a framework to work from. Obviously, as Michelle is getting ready to help us prepare next budget, certainly us having some landing on where you are with FY20 will be important. And it can be based on what you see to be our next steps and our next priorities. So we felt like our work was to kind of frame it up. I commend both of these folks who've
Yeah,
done
this
an
is
outstanding
huge.
job.
To see that.
Yeah.
You know, lay it all out. I love
And
that.
to see what it means to us in terms of a projected fund balance as we go along. It's something that we've been talking about. And here's the evidence as we take care of existing property and or build properties, this is what it starts to look like. So, great work. I think it gives us a good frame to work from. Michelle advised us as to, at some point along the way, we are gonna need to land on FY 20's capital outlay plan. What does that look like time-wise?
The FY 20 budget and the capital plan, which we typically do a 5-year, is due in September. So this is something we really need to be thinking about. I will probably do budget hearings, I would imagine the end of August, early September. So for me to have everything ready to go, I'd like to have a really good idea, nothing necessarily voted on in July, but I'd like to have a good idea of what your thoughts are, where your direction is, and what you would like to see Hoover City Schools look like in the next 2 to 3 years.
Great.
Yes, sir.
Your question, I know we doing stuff with a millage increase. How does this kind of play into what we're thinking about it as far as timing and getting those increases? And Michelle, if that gets passed and the citizens of Hoover vote for a millage increase, do we come back and amend our budget with extra funds? I guess I just need to understand the increase. Is that purely for capital outlay?
No. No, but in the conversation with getting the bill introduced and passed, I think it serves the citizens well to know that if they're gonna be taxed to see brick and mortar and see something they put their eyes on, even though it's one big budget we're working in, I think it could be a combination of the arts center, it could be new construction on the learning, something that shows brick and mortar, in other words. So, yeah, of course, we've yet to have to ask our council to come forward and call for a vote and hopefully get that passed, but you can't account for that until it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks.
But yes, if that were the case, let's just say we've approved the budget for September, then we can do that budget amendment. We have 2 budget amendments that we can do. I don't know that I foresee anything really happening for FY 20. I think this would be more in FY 21, FY 22, before we would actually see that in a budget.
Plus, I think you collect and have abnormal arrears anyway, so you wouldn't see the funds.
The other thing I
Good
wanna say too is, right now, we're hoping that we get $5 million from the city. If they were to be generous and to give us more, we also might have money coming from online sales that's not taken into consideration here, that would also help with the bottom line each year. But those are unknowns at this point. I really don't wanna project on anything without any numbers to work with.
Thank you.
Helpful?
Yes.
Very
Good, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
This is Tracy's last regular scheduled board meeting to be with us. And anybody who knows me and has ever heard me talk about Tracy knows that I just adore him. He is a terrific man, a perfect gentleman, and is loyal just like nobody's business. And Tracy, I just have grown to appreciate you as a colleague and as a friend, and you will be sorely missed, and we, as I've told the board members, could rescind your retirement if you'd like for us to do that tonight, but wish you well, my friend. Thank you.
Thank y'all very much.
You have anything else? Okay. We have a board meeting scheduled at 5:30. We hope to be on time. We will be on time. Thanks for being here for the work session. These will continue. We most likely will not have a work session right before a board meeting. I think you saw from last month, if too much goes on, it's very difficult to stop the work session, get our thoughts collected. So we'll probably do it at the convenience of the board and employees in the morning at some point, so we can get more focus to it and not have any board president get too loud.
And I rushed today, I had more time.
Very good, thank you for the presentation. Okay, well, we will stop the work session, if that's a word, adjourn it, and yes.
No, I'm good.
Okay, good. Thank you. We'll see you guys on the.
Yes, please.